A short time after Jesus was talking to Nicodemus about worshiping God in our heart, he was on his way from Jerusalem down to Galilee. But they had to go, he and his friends had to go through a country called Samaria. Now, Samaria is an outgrowth of when, remember after King Solomon, and remember the Shekinah glory came into the temple so bright and everybody wanted to worship God there, God was there. But then after King Solomon died, the people got worse and worse again, and Ezekiel says he actually saw God's Holy Spirit, this is Old Testament, saw the Holy Spirit leave the temple, go out into the courtyard, through the gates, down the steps, and leave the temple. God was so upset with his people. Well, from this mix-up came a lot of confusion. And so this is why we end up with a country between Galilee and Jerusalem called Samaria. They were people that were a mixture of everything. And the Jews hated the Samaritans. They thought they were dirty. And yet those Jewish Pharisees, they had problems in themselves. They were snooty and thought they were really it. And so anyway, enough of the history right now. But Jesus was on his way, going home from Jerusalem. They went through Samaria, and usually the Jews would take the long road around Samaria because they thought they were bad, dirty people. And but they were dirty in their hearts themselves with their arrogance. And so Jesus said, no, let's not go around Samaria. I want to go through Samaria, because Jesus knew there was people in there that really would like to know about God's love. And they came to a well in Samaria, and Jesus stopped and said, you know what, fellas, you go on into the head into the city. I know you're going, they were going in there for some food for all of them. You go ahead, I'm going to sit here and wait for you near this tree. And so he did. And as he was waiting, and he knew something was, he had a plan. And as he was waiting, sure enough, here comes a Samaritan woman to the well, and she had a water pot on her shoulders, and she had a rope that she would tie around that and lower it down into the well, Jacob's well that we read about in the Old Testament a long time ago. A story I told a long time ago. And she lowered her pot down into the water, and Jesus sat there, and he was watching her, and she lifted it up, and he said, ma'am, and she said, yes, sir. She was surprised because the Jews don't normally talk to the Samaritans. She could tell he was a Jew, and I don't know if it was the way he dressed, but she knew he was a Jew. And he said, ma'am, could I please have a drink of water? And she said, well, sure. And so she gave him a cup of water from her jug. And Jesus said, you know, if you would have asked me for a drink, I could have given you living water. And she looked a little confused, and she said, living water? She said, if you had a pot, you would have put it down in the well and asked me to have a drink of this living water. And he said, no, I'm not talking about that kind of water. So he began to explain to her about her past. Uh-oh, this lady was in trouble because she had slept around a lot with, she had 5 husbands, and the man she was living with now was not her husband. And she wasn't living a very stellar moral lifestyle at all. In fact, a lot of the scholars think that she probably was kind of an outcast at this point, and the women didn't like her at all. The men maybe liked her too much. I don't know. But she was an outcast, and so she came to the well at a certain time of day when nobody else was around. But she was not a happy woman at all. She wasn't very happy. And Jesus said, if I would like to give you living water. And she said, well, how can you do that? And then he began to explain to her just who he was. And well, first of all, he said, you're not living a stellar lifestyle. And she started to think, are you a prophet? Nobody else would know this except you. How do you know these things? And he said, because if you knew who you were talking to, you would want this living water. And she finally figured out, she said, we know there's a prophet coming, but you must be him. Nobody else could tell me these things. And so she dropped her water pot, and she was so excited. She went into town and started telling everybody in town that she met the Messiah, the one that was promised from God, and that he is the living water. And so they did. She brought him back, and they came out to see who he was and listen. And Jesus said, it doesn't matter. She said, shall we worship in the temple in Jerusalem? Is that what you're saying? The Jews don't like us. We've got our own temple here. Shall we go there and worship? And once again, just like he told Nicodemus, it's not a matter of where you worship, but it's a matter of the heart. It's the worship in the heart that counts. And he stayed there for 2 days, and the Samaritan woman was so filled with joy to think she finally found the answer to her messed up life, is to follow Jesus and to trust in his word and the power of his Holy Spirit. And so she was very happy, and says he stayed for 2 days there. And many of the Samaritans, which the Jews hated because they were a mixture of Jews and everything else, half-breeds, and just a fruit basket upset, a real casserole of people. And the Jews didn't like that. The Pharisees were the biggest opponents of the Samaritans. But they found Jesus, and Jesus brought life to a lot of them, and many believed after that. So it's not it's like he told Nicodemus, it's not where you worship or how you worship. It's in the heart where you worship. All in the heart. So that made the whole day, made the whole rest of the life for the Samaritan woman who used to be an outcast. But again, it's like the Spirit comes, like the wind, we don't know where it comes from, but when it touches us, we know it. If we even ask for it, it'll come. And then we want to go tell others, like the Samaritan woman did. And there's a song, I don't know if I want to sing it. I got a bad voice, besides I cry easy. But, forgive me. Oh, I shouldn't even try. But the words are so beautiful in it. Like a babe who cries for its mother. Like a child, I was helpless, alone. Then I met the Master. Now I am one of his own. For all things were changed when he found me. A new day broke through all around me when I met the Master. Now I belong to him. Sorry, I cry easy. But you see, it's the same thing that happened to Nicodemus. Now it's happened to this woman, and they want others to know about Christ. So have a good day, guys. I love you all. I hope you find Jesus if you haven't yet. Bye-bye.